You should start small. Starting small is how you get momentum, but also small acts, when multiplied a million times, are the things that do change the world. And it's the only thing that ever has changed the world is a million different small acts, because that makes large impact.
Welcome to this week's As Unexpected podcast, when we talk to C-suite executives, entrepreneurs, and philanthropists about how they lead into the future when the future generally goes as unexpected. I'm Scott Marshall, your host, and my own professional experience has made me a believer that it's not how you show up when all goes as planned, but it is how you show up when things go as unplanned. Given all of their experiences, each of our guests has become very attuned to the fact that the future is not to be predicted. My hope is that this podcast can help all of you become better leaders by building the core leadership capabilities for leading in an uncertain world. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of As Unexpected Podcast. Today, I've got a true entrepreneur, a citizen of the world, and someone who's at least half my age, but really moving the world through his business acumen and his entrepreneurship. Please welcome Ryan Westberg. Ryan, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks so much for having me today, Scott. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Hey, Ryan, I'd love for you to give everybody who's listening a good sense of your own entrepreneurial journey, your own business background that led you up to where you are today. Can you give some of that context for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, my name's Ryan Westberg. I'm currently the co-founder and CEO of Fan of a Fan, but I'd have to start my entrepreneurial story actually off of semester at sea. I was a student on fall 2011 voyage, and that's where I got the idea with the co-founder for our first company called Serengeti. The idea was, or we started going to all the different places around Africa, Asia, Central America, and we started buying fabrics in all the countries we went to. So by the end of our voyage, we had this huge pile of fabrics from really all over the world. And we wanted to keep traveling now that we had this sampler platter of the world. We wanted to give back to these amazing countries we had been to, but also support the local artisans that we were purchasing the fabrics from. So just a couple months after we got off that voyage, when we were juniors in college, we launched the brand Serengeti. We basically took these fabrics, made them into different products. The product that got very popular were pocket tees. So it'd be like a plain shirt with a cool fabric from around the world, allowing customers to wear the world. And then every fabric was connected to a charity within the country it was purchased from. And so we launched my junior year of college, and it really took off because we had students from all over the world that were on our voyage that wanted to support us, but also our timing was really good with the rise of social media. Like Instagram was just getting popular, Facebook was still the thing, and Facebook advertising launched a year into the business. So we really just rode the curtails of social media, and that brand really took off and really set me up. Got to travel to over 100 different countries in my early 20s, living a pretty crazy life out of a backpack while running the brand. We got the brand up to doing millions of dollars in sales per year while running it completely remotely. We were kind of early on that digital nomad life. And when we were traveling, we were visiting artisans around the world, buying fabrics, stuffing suitcases with fabrics, sending it back to the US to our warehouse, and also trying to tell the stories of the charities we were supporting and the artisans as well. So I did that for about 7.5 years, and then kind of had like 7-year itch, a little not midlife, but some kind of crisis where I was just a little burnt out from living out of a suitcase for so long, not really having like that true community aspect. And also I realized it all came to me when I was dredging that next once in a life trip for someone else. I was dreading going to Bali or Africa, all of these like incredible places. And that's when I was like, okay, something's not right here. And around that time, I met this group of our YouTube channel called Yes Theory. They had about 100,000 subscribers at the time. And they were huge fans of my brand. And they asked if I could help them launch their brand called Seek Discomfort. And that kind of helped roll into what my position and company is now. So helped them launch that brand about 6.5 years ago. And it really took off. Like their channel was 100,000 subscribers. Now they're 9 or 10 million subscribers. They're absolutely, next thing you know, they were jumping out of helicopters with Will Smith and living a crazy, crazy growth path.
Right. Right.
And so they're like, hey, you're really good at this. We have all these friends that need help also. And that's how my current role came to be. So we launched Fan of a Fan, which is a full service merchandising company. We work with some of the world's best talent, mainly in the YouTube space. But we also have a pretty large infrastructure side of our business, which is a 3PL, where we store and ship e-commerce orders for all of our own brands, where we manage about 25 brands, but also other fast-growing e-commerce brands that are not our own, but we just do their storage and fulfillment for. And yeah, I've been doing this maybe 6 or 7 years now, and got a solid team and located in Los Angeles.
Well, embedded in all of that, Ryan, seems a lot of things that were a bit unexpected, but we'll get to that in a minute. Certainly the one thing that seems really a common thread to it all is you just have a ability to recognize opportunity, and you really, at least what's coming across for me, you really have an authentic purpose that connects to the people you're involved with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people are everything, whether that's just having a strong relationship with my business partners, but also really trying to build small, really, really solid leadership teams has been my focus, especially as of late, because they're the people that are coming in, working for you, putting their lives, really, they're giving you their part of their lives every single day. So trying to provide a good work environment, but also just trying to find really incredible people that are willing to be along for the ride.
Yeah, yeah, and it really has these roots, at least from what you've said, to how you wanted to make sure that the artists in the countries you're sourcing from had real value in working with you, that they saw the benefit through your sourcing.
Yeah, that was definitely a very fulfilling chapter of life, being able to support so many incredible artists around the world. That was really awesome. And we were able to have a pretty large impact in some small communities, especially in places like Guatemala, where we had a weaving co-op at one point that was full-time employing about 25 women in like very rural areas where there wasn't much opportunity. That was definitely a very great chapter of life.
Yeah, for sure. And you have so many more chapters left. You're definitely not in midlife yet.
Yeah.
I can say that because I'm pretty sure I'm past the midlife point at 57. You're not even at midlife yet.
Mid-20s, okay.
Yeah, you've got many chapters left. So Ryan, of course, the title of this podcast is As Unexpected, and as again through your story, there seem to be some unexpected turns, some really positive for you. I'm hoping that you would be willing to share with our listeners a couple of those examples of how things just took a turn where you could never have planned, never could have thought it was going to happen, and how you showed up for yourself, and then how you showed up for those around you.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely have more than one story here, but I think the biggest one with my current role was we launched a company, I believe it was 2018. And so we were about a year and a half into the business, and things were going well, but then that pandemic hit, and that was definitely a crazy, very, very crazy time because we were still a young company. I just exited Serengeti, and I felt like things were going well, but that was like a nice stable company that had been around for nearly 10 years at the time. And I'd taken the risk to start this, and then all of a sudden a global pandemic happens, and we had just started hiring like our first full-time employees just weeks before it hit. So not only was I concerned about my own well-being, but now I felt super responsible for these people that had just left their jobs to join us on this mission, and had to, really figure out very quickly what we needed to do. And so once we realized the world wasn't totally ending, and our brands actually started to do better than they ever had, we had to adjust quickly. And what we ended up doing is we had a very large global supply chain, and we ended up onshoring everything and vertically integrating our entire business to have control, because we were using third parties for everything, and we were no one's priority. Everyone was just concerned about keeping the lights on and like a period of uncertainty. So we ended up actually taking an even bigger risk in opening up our own warehousing and facilities and bringing everything in-house to just have more control over our whole process, to give our clients a better experience and take kind of that unknown out of the areas we felt we could take control over.
Right.
And yeah, that unexpected, try and like limit it as much as possible within what we felt we could control.
So you basically shortened the last half or 3/4 of your supply chain, or even more?
Yeah. So basically, we do a lot of print, like screen printing, embroidery, all of that, but then also fulfillment for our own brand. So like storing and shipping the orders out. We had all of that like pieced out with third parties. So we brought that all under one roof, bought all our own machinery, warehousing, hired our own employees and team, and took that all over in 2020 in the midst of the pandemic, which was crazy, but also we had to kind of strike while we had the opportunity as well.
Yeah, that is a major move. And how would you feel that's paid off for you now? I mean, is the cost structure a challenge, or is it?
Yeah, it's the best and worst thing, because all of a sudden was responsible for just a few people, and then the team quickly grew to 20, 30, and then at one point we had 65 people, which was, it was the best thing and worst thing ever, to be honest. And now we have restructured things. We actually have sold off part of our business. We no longer do the production side, but we had to for the pandemic to have control. But now we focus on the fulfillment side for our own infrastructure. So lots of chapters of the business as well. But 2020, we made that leap of faith.
Yeah. Well, since you're a Semester C alum, you're probably very familiar with the impact of the pandemic on our organization and the program. We learned a lot of lessons, very hard lessons. And, unfortunately, we couldn't move our supply chain and production into the United States. That's not the nature of what we do. So we basically had to shut down what we do for a year and a half. Very, very difficult times. But then, you get perspective that a lot of the world had very serious challenges, and we have to show up for our challenges, right? For what we do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Globally, it was a lot more difficult than what you can control in one space. So I could only imagine.
This episode of As Unexpected is sponsored in part by Semester C, a study abroad program for college students and adults on career breaks, sabbaticals, or retired, interested in learning and exploring the world together. Learn more about the Lifelong Learner program at www.semesterc.org. Yeah. So now you're running this business. How many employees do you have currently?
We have 35 now. 35 full-time.
And what is the sort of growth trajectory? What are you trying to do with the business currently?
Yeah, so
as you look toward the next 2 years.
Yeah, last year was a lot of restructuring, recalibrating. Like we had this huge pandemic boom, and we were growing like crazy at all times. And some brands kind of came back down to earth last year, so we kind of had to adjust accordingly, and that led to some hard decisions of selling off like a primary core of our business, but. Now it's just been refocusing. I think we were spreading ourselves thin, kind of chasing opportunities. As you said, I am an opportunist. When I go for it. Some things work out, some things don't. But now it's just been like, okay, what are our core competencies as a business, and what are we showing up to do every day, and what can we do better than anyone else? So we now just focused on like our brand building side, and then 3PL logistics, two things I think we're world class at. And then everything else we'll just outsource and find partners that are also world class at it, rather than trying to just be good at everything.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I think it's apparent to everybody here there's a significant age difference between Ryan and I, and I get to learn a lot from people who are young and entrepreneurial like yourself. I think that there's also a lot of people who are maybe 5 to 10 years younger than you who dream of being an entrepreneur, who have, and I definitely see the difference between a dream and it actually happening. But given the success you've had, what would you say are a few pieces of advice for people who are saying, I really want to drive a business, I want to create something. What are the things that seem to really be your biggest lessons learned?
It's definitely cliche, but I just always think you have to go for it, because movement, action is always better than just dreaming. Everything comes down to execution. And there's no real downside, especially when you're young, for just going for it, because you're always going to even if it is a failure, you're going to end up with like a world of knowledge that's building your life resume. And you're automatically, if I'm looking at someone's resume and they like tried to start a business, I know they're going to have like a different mindset. They're going to have maybe more respect for like some stability that they might be searching for now. But I value that when I'm hiring, if I see someone that went for it. And I know a lot of employers do that. And that's like worst case scenario. Best case scenario is that turns into your job, your career, and it can take you down paths you never dreamed of just by taking action.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Action. You got to act. You got to try.
Everything's action. Everyone has a million ideas, but it's always the action that puts you on the scoreboard.
Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of entrepreneurs over the last few years, and there really is those who say, since I was 5 years old, I was selling lemonade on the corner or whatever it is. And there's those who say, yeah, when I was in college, we just came up with this idea and I pursued it. Which group would you put yourself in? Were you 5 and saying, I knew I was always going to be an entrepreneur? Or was it more just circumstance that said, I really want to do something like this?
So I was that kid. I had my businesses. I had a wagon going door to door selling rocks when I was 5 years old to my neighbors. Just definitely was always trying to hustle and make money. But I also fell off that path thinking I wanted to have like a traditional job towards the end of high school, going into college. And it really was semester at sea that shook me off and back to kind of my roots and foundation, that thing I was kind of running away from. It brought me back, but I did always have that entrepreneurial spirit, selling candy in middle school from my locker, just really always trying to hustle. But I did just kind of, for a period of time, I didn't think that was my path. And just, opportunity struck on semester at sea, and I just felt like there's no reason not to go for it. Had this safety net of still being in college, and I felt like, why not? This would at least make me a little bit more interesting at a party.
Well, I think you have so many stories now that you're the life of the party, perhaps. Lots of great stories to tell. You've been around the world, and you ended up finding trips to Bali to be onerous and fatiguing, no more interesting. It wore out so much. Those are awesome stories. Ryan, I have a book with a quote in it I wanted to read to you. It's not a new book. It's actually been around quite a while. Of course, these authors have developed quite a name with their podcast around Freakonomics, and parlayed that into a whole nother way of thinking. But it's to me, it's just one of those quotes that every once in a while I have to remind myself, because sometimes I like to think about how we tackle the biggest issues. But it's that thin slicing idea. It's how do we really understand and break down things. So here's the quote, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. The book is Think Like a Freak, written by Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner. The quote goes like this: any kind of change is hard, but the chances of triggering change on a small problem are much greater than on a big one. So given all the experience you have, how do you respond to that?
Love that quote, and it actually brings me to another quote that I heard a long time ago. I'm going to misquote it, and I should have written it down, but
no, go at it.
It's just that you should start small. Starting small is how you get momentum, but also small acts, when multiplied a million times, are the things that do change the world. And it's the only thing that ever has changed the world is a million different small acts, because that makes large impact.
Yeah, and we can only move one sand grain at a time. We can't, which is another
you're
metaphor.
You're going to create
right?
a million excuses going after the big thing. But if you start small, get some momentum, all of a sudden 20 different small acts are going to look pretty big when you look back on it.
Yeah. And you found that in your own experience, it sounds like.
Absolutely. Yeah. You got to take everything day by day, control what you can, focus on what you can control, and just keep moving along. And then, months go by, years go by, and then all of a sudden you actually have done a lot, but it always starts small.
Yeah. Another somewhat related, it's not a quote, but it's more of a philosophy that I was given many, many years ago. And I'm going to get it not perfect either. It's basically what someone called it the 10-20-70 rule. 10% we control, 20% we influence, 70% we have no control or influence over. That 10% is just ourselves. And to me, everything you've said today rings true about that, because that 10% is taking action. Have you heard that statement before?
I haven't heard that, but it definitely, it goes to like my core ethos is just focus on what you can control, and whether that's in your personal life or business, or if you're traveling the world and you're in a country like India where you realize everything is, you got to let go because nothing's in your control, or nothing outside of how you feel and how you're showing up every day is in your control. But just focus on that, and you'll be just fine.
I love it. And there is nothing like traveling to another country if you haven't learned it yet, to teach it to you, and then just keep teaching it to you. Absolutely. It's how you prepare, the expectations we set, and how we show up, because as we travel the world, it's all about the unexpected.
And that's the beauty in it. It's not fearing the unknown. It's getting excited about it, because that's definitely where the magic happens.
For sure. Ryan, this has been awesome. I would love it if you would complete this podcast. You've obviously given one piece of advice around action. If you want to be entrepreneurial, you got to take action. If someone is just in college, what would you tell them, whether they want to be an entrepreneur or not? But as they look forward to their life post-college, you're not that far away from it, even though you've accomplished so much. Closer to it than I am, for sure. What would you say if you were guest speaking in a college class right now? What would you say? This is the one thing you should think about.
Swing for the fences. Even if you end up getting that double, triple, you're going to be better off than just going for the easy path. Always swing for the fences.
There you go. Always swing for the fences. I love it. Ryan, thanks so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Scott. This was fun.
Good. We'll be in touch next time I'm in LA, okay?
Please do.
This episode of As Unexpected is sponsored in part by Semester at Sea, a study abroad program where students visit 10 countries on 3 continents, all while taking 3 to 4 college classes through Colorado State University. See course offerings and upcoming voyage itineraries at www.semesteratsea.org. Thank you for joining this week's episode of the As Unexpected podcast. The viewpoints and opinions of featured guests do not necessarily represent those of the Institute for Shipboard Education or Semester at Sea. Hit the like button, share it with your colleagues, family, and friends, and remember, be curious, be compassionate, be courageous. That's what it takes to lead as unexpected.